every loyal party man should be expectant of something good happening to him very soon. And I believe, just like Honorable Doris Ubo, just like every other House of Representative candidate of the party in the last election, every other House of Assembly candidate in the last election, is to their role is to remain steadfast with the party and with high expectations, because the party, in distributing patronage, will recognize the fact that some persons contested election, some persons have support of the masses, some persons can be a bridge between the government and the populace, and these persons will be remembered in terms of political appointments, in terms of party patronage with projects. They will definitely be remembered, because that is the only reasonable way we can build a party. You don't run a political party and when you have patronage to give out, you give it to members of your opposition. I do not think the APC will make that mistake again. Those mistakes were made with school feeding. Those mistakes were made with many of the social intervention programs of the party, where the government felt that the best strategy was for the state government, where there were no APC governments, to run them. Now we have found out, for instance, that school feeding in Delta State, the Delta State government is not paying monitors who are supposed to supervise the school feeding program. And so the people that have the job for the school feeding are feeding the children with whatever they deem fit, because Delta State government is not paying the supervisors. So the supervisors have down tools, and a lot of people are not aware of this. So when they put 2 balls of pancake or 2 balls of akara on a plate, or they put rice and they put boiled egg, and then people go to social media and say this is what federal government is feeding children with. That program is about 75–80% funded by federal government. The counterpart funding from state government is about 25%, and those counterpart funding is to pay some crucial elements that have supervisory role to play. Yet the state government is not able to pay that. And of course, you know Nigeria how it is. There is virtually any program or project that goes unsupervised that can succeed. That is where we have problem with school feeding, particularly for non-APC states. And we're going to make strong representation to the federal government to say we must be able to tinker with this program if we must make a success. The same thing with other social intervention programs. The social intervention programs come to the state. It is handed over to the state government. The state government, through its agency, will collect the money from the federal government, from CBN, and then who are the patrons? The people they patronize are members of the PDP. And we're saying we're not going to have any of that again. We are not going to have any of that again. A situation where a social intervention program is handed over to the state government, and state government uses it to empower members of their own political party to the exclusion of members of APC. That will not happen again. It is robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're going to make serious representations to the federal government on this social intervention program, particularly as it affects states that are not under the control of APC. We must find a way to do it, either by appointing presidential liaison officers or appointing coordinators who will fully represent the interest of the people. Because these social intervention programs have been virtually grossly mismanaged in non-APC states. Well, Victor Che is a lovely person, a lovely guy to be with. He's a good Deltan, he's a patriotic Deltan, he's knowledgeable in political affairs, he's a successful businessman, and I also believe that he's a loyal party man. Unfortunately, we could have had only one governorship candidate. Victor Che wanted to be the governorship candidate of the party. Unfortunately, he didn't get it. But he remained with the party, worked towards the success of the party in Delta North. Unfortunately, there were other elements involved that are naturally not under the control of persons who are not the governorship candidates. And those elements are crucial to success or failure in every election. So I cannot attribute any of the reasons why the party failed in Delta to Victor Che. I think the party and the candidates could have done a little more for us to succeed. And if there is anybody that needs to work as seriously hard within the party to make the party have a new face, particularly in Delta North, is Right Honorable Victor Che. And I believe the party is working towards that. We need to bring him in, he needs to be in, and he needs to work for the party success. As regards social intervention programs, as regards government agencies like NDDC, I would say for Delta, for instance, we've not had the best of impact from the NDDC. And I believe that in this current instance, a lot will be done to ensure that the best of impact of this intervention agency is felt by a lot of people in Delta State. What we experienced in time past is that some persons, because of their position, exercised proprietary interest on projects that were coming from NDDC. I do not think in the current administration that anybody will be allowed to exercise such proprietary interest, where you now begin to appropriate what belongs to all of us as what belongs to you, and then you now begin to exercise that sole role of being the one to dispense the patronage as you deem fit. Oftentimes, these patronages are dispensed to self and self alone. I do not think anybody will allow that to happen again, because part of the problems that APC had in Delta State was that the membership were highly impoverished. And then we had interventionist agencies like NDDC that were dishing out contracts in high volume. And then you cannot count 5 to 10 party men who patronized. Politics goes by patronage. Everybody knows that. Olorogun Otega Mero knows that. Most distinguished Senator Ovioma Agege knows that. Right Honorable Victor Che knows that. Chief Great Ovejogboro knows that. We all need patronage to survive. The bulk of our party men need patronage to survive. But in the last dispensation, what we experienced was that one man will go to Port Harcourt, arrest the patronage that belongs to all of us, and then begin to appropriate it to himself and his family. That will never happen again. That will never happen again. Whatever patronage are there to benefit party members will get to party members this time. That is part of my brief. Well, towards 2023, from APC, I would say that the number one priority is power. Without power, you cannot run an economy. And in my own opinion, I do not think this government has done excellently well as regards power generation. Power generation for me has been all talk. We've been very long on explanation, but very short in performance. And I would want to see a more practical approach to power generation. If we are going to follow the grid system, then we must put our grid in order. We must know what we are getting from the generating companies. So that it doesn't become a question of a story of today. Every government that comes in Nigeria tells you they met 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts being generated, and then after 6 months they tell you they are now generating 5,000 megawatts. But it looks as if we are stuck at 5,000 megawatts as a country, and if we don't go beyond that in the next 3 years, then this government would have failed. I believe fervently that before the end of the second tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari, that this country will conveniently be producing between 10,000 to 15,000 megawatts of electricity. That is when we can now be sure as a nation that we can attract reasonable investors, because no investor will come to you to do his business if he now has to take on the onerous task of also generating electricity for those his businesses. So that is where I think this government has not done well enough. In terms of road construction, the government has done excellently well. Most of the trunk A roads are now good. I know that under the previous administration of PDP, if you are going to Lagos by road, you get to a place after Ore, you have to drive into the bush, most of Ogun State, come out from another bush in Ondo State before you continue your journey. But now nobody is doing that. If you're going to Lagos, in 4 or 5 hours, you are in Lagos from here. And that is kudos to this administration and their consistency. The same is applying to Abuja Road. A lot of the truncated roads are being dualized. The second Niger Bridge is moving at a very fast pace. Onitsha Enugu Express Road is also moving at a very fast pace. Enugu Port Harcourt Road is moving fast. Virtually 75% of the trunk A roads that traverse this country are being constructed at the same time. And some of these account for the high level of borrowing by this government. But the government also realizes the fact that the roads alone cannot bear all the burden, and that is why it is spending enormous resources into railway. Because if you have an alternative in the railway, you have an alternative in the waterways, then the roads will bear lesser load and they will incur lesser damages. If you watch what has been happening to Asaba-Ubolu Ila Road, you'll find out that the high presence of heavy-duty vehicles, particularly those conveying cement and those conveying crushed rocks, they keep damaging the road. So even when the road was reconstructed about 4 or 5 months ago, you go through the road now, you'll be wondering whether this is the same road that was recently reconstructed, because these vehicles carry dead weights. These dead weights damage the road enormously. If, for instance, cement manufacturers are compelled to transport their cement by rail, some of our roads will last longer. And these are things that can be achieved through legislation, and I believe that we'll look at those areas very well. So in terms of things to come for 2023, we should expect more efficiency from government. We should expect more projects. We should also, the citizenry should also expect more patronage, because the government is aware that you can never have happy Nigerians if they don't have money in their pocket. Everybody knows that. You go nowhere without money. So the government is working assiduously to put money in the pocket of the average Nigerian through its social intervention work, through the distribution of patronage, and for us, particularly in Delta APC, the happy days are here again. Position for Edo is simple. We must not lose in Edo State. We must win in Edo State. In Edo, it must be a win-win for all the stakeholders. I'm not from Edo State, but I have a lot of friends from Edo State. I schooled in Edo State, and I have a couple of my former classmates who are interested in the governorship of the state, who are interested in being senators in that state. And one word I have always shared with them is, try and work together. I believe that all the elements in Edo, APC, can work together for the return of Obaseki as governor, and that is an easier route for APC to travel in Edo State. Any other route may be a difficult one to travel, and so the combatants need to sheath their sword. The governor himself needs also to curb his excesses, because on social media, on print media, electronic media, I've seen the governor go here and there. Sometimes it doesn't take running from pillar to post to achieve what you need to achieve. Sometimes all it takes you to achieve what you need to achieve is sitting down and thinking out the best of strategies and then implement them in the most serious manner. You will achieve what you're looking at. And for the national chairman, you don't really need to be a godfather to run a party well. Sometimes it's about live and let live. That is what it takes for success. That is my advice for Edo APC. Now, coming down to Delta, let me say this. Our party is perhaps at its lowest ebb now. But the good news is that in the crisis that affected the party after the congresses and after the primaries, the major blocks that control the affairs of the party chose different ways of getting a resolution. Now, when you have a party crisis, there are two ways you can get a resolution of the crisis, either by litigation or by dialogue. I think they tried dialogue didn't work out so much. Then the result was to litigation. Now we've gone through via the route of litigation. Fortunately and unfortunately, one side won at the highest level, the highest court in the land. And that was what necessitated the popular Olorogun Otega Emeros published statement. So one party has won, and the man said, we fought a good fight, but there is time to end the fight. Now the fight has ended. The rebuilding process has begun. My expectation is that I expect the state caucus to meet very soon, because the state caucus of the party is the arm of that party recognized that sets the tone and pace of the party. So I expect the state caucus, either state caucus as it is in the constitution or an extended state caucus, to meet very soon and fine-tune the winning strategies for the party. And I believe that the winning strategies of the party will have to be begun after the state caucus. That the chairman of the party, Jones Erue, will call a stakeholders meeting, select people from all over the state to brief them on the peace initiative that his executive have planned out. I do not think this is a time to talk about harmonization. I think what we need to do now is see how we can support the executive of the party to run the party well till the next Congress. So I expect that once the state caucus meets, the next thing to do will be that the state chairman, Jones Erue, will call a stakeholders meeting, and after that stakeholders meeting is done, I believe at the senatorial level, they will also have their senatorial caucuses or senatorial stakeholders meetings. And the purpose of this stakeholders meeting is actually to tell everybody, both ESCOs, both the legitimate ESCOs and the other ESCO can come together and work together. We're all party men. We're doing that at the ward level in most places in Delta North. Because if you want your party to win, you must come together. Politics is a game of numbers. And you can imagine it's a win-win situation for us if you have the legitimate party ESCO of about 35 people, and you have another 35 people coming in to join them to work with them. It's a win-win for us, and that is what I expect that will happen at the ward level, at the local government level, and at the senatorial level. That is my expectation of the party, and that will bring the party back to winning ways. There might be need to set up a reconciliation committee. You know, politics is about consultation. When you set up a reconciliation committee, for instance, peopled by leaders and elders, then they can talk to the aggrieved members and explain things to them. It will also be a channel for the aggrieved members to also let the party know their expectations. That is how politics works. And I think that is what the party is about to do. God willing, in another 3 to 4 months, I believe the issues that have trailed us shall be things of the past, and the party will be brought back to winning ways. That is the aspiration of the distinguished Deputy President of the Senate.